This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. This week on the show, we have Ian Collins and Mark Beauchamp, the blokes behind theblockchain.com. They discuss everything from the fork and hardware wallets to Gavin Wood's Polkadot through Norse mythology. Ledger Wallet is a smart card-based Bitcoin hardware wallet bringing maximum protection level to your Bitcoins without sacrificing usability or control. Find the link in this episode's show notes.
I'm Mark Beauchamp. I am an IT professional of some 20 plus years. I am a keen blockchain enthusiast. I guess, like many people, kind of became aware of blockchain and through Bitcoin probably in the last year or two, and then have just got more interested in the blockchain scene over the past, I guess, 6 to 12 months, finding out more about it, seeing where it can be applied. And yeah, really just kind of trying to understand it better than I do today by attending things like meetups and conferences and seminars that are mainly held in London. But I'm also interested in ones that are around the world. So that's me. Ian?
Hello, my name is Ian Collins. I've been in technology for, many, many years. Dealt with many large projects and cloud computing. And blockchain was something that came up round about similar way to Mark, with my own curiosity around what Bitcoin was and how it works. My initial view of it was, it's a new currency. How exactly does that fit into the world? And that's when I started to understand about the technology, and customers started asking me about it as a sort of over the coffee conversation. So that's how I really got into it, to understand more about technology and the idea of the shared ledger and managing a workflow within an organization through blockchain suddenly became quite a good, useful tool in my mind, and the applications for it are endless. Thus, I started looking at it as a sort of side of desk activity, should we say, and with Mark, we have conversations weekly about what we're finding out. I'm based in the States and the UK, so we do compare what we've found out and information in that side of things.
Yeah, so I just to jump in there and not cut across Ian where I can, but Ian and I have known each other for at least 10 years, probably more, and we've worked together, we've socialized together, we kind of just get on really well, and yeah, as Ian says, he's probably mainly based in the US with occasional UK, and I'm the other way around. I'm mainly based in the UK with occasional US, and both work and vacation as well. So yeah, we catch up pretty regularly. We compare notes from across the Atlantic, and you know, like many people, we're looking for the next internet, which things like blockchain, I think, are really have huge potential to be. We've made our livelihoods out of technology, keeping ahead of the curve, maybe, or at least surfing on the curve, keeping pretty close to it, and this one feels like something worth keeping involved with and worth understanding better. So yeah, which is why I and Ian are really interested and go out of our way to invest time and research on the technology, on the scene, on the ecosystem, because I think, as with most good technology, it's also about good people, and how smart people work well together, and that's all about kind of the communication side of things.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you guys. This is a space where I kind of consider myself an outsider. It seems like right now is kind of a changing time. What's the feeling in the UK right now?
So Steve and Ian and I had a conversation a couple of months back, in fact, and I don't think it's changed greatly since then. I think when you talk to people in the UK, the man on the street, or even people who are also IT professionals, blockchain tends to mean Bitcoin. People hear about Bitcoin on the daily news when you get malware attacks and people demand ransom in Bitcoin, or you see hacks on the news about people trying to cash in on Bitcoin, or indeed recently talking about the Bitcoin Cash fork, and people are really kind of trying to understand, well, what does that mean? Why has Bitcoin suddenly split itself into two? What does that mean for me? The use of, I guess, blockchains like Ethereum are less well known, and certainly probably only known as alternative cryptocurrencies, as opposed to the glue or the cogs that could fire the next internet. And that's, whilst I'm really interested in cryptocurrency, because you may as well put your money there at the moment because it gets better interest than a bank account. But actually, the glue of the next generation internet in things like smart contracts, the digital identity and authentication, proof of work, proof of stake, and proof in general, I think are the really interesting and important things that I'm trying to get my head around. I'm trying to look at what's going on, so I can become an expert of it. I think we've all got the opportunity. I will say even you, Ethan, but that doesn't. I'm not meaning that to sound patronising, but anybody right now can get into it. And I'm not a mathematical genius. I'm not a Vitalik Buterin. I'm not a Gavin Wood. I'm a pretty common or garden guy on the street, but I can sense the opportunity, and I can bring whatever skills and experience I have to the table to try and A, benefit me, but also B, I think benefit the IT industry, benefit maybe wider world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that Steve is excited about Bitcoin Cash. Are you gentlemen as well?
I am. I really. I think I prepared for it. So I could see it coming. I'm following YouTube videos and kind of keeping the ear to the ground on what's going on with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Over the past 8 months, I've only really been dabbling in cryptocurrencies over that kind of period of time, but I had some spare cash at the start of the year. I decided to buy some Bitcoin and buy some Ether and buy some other cryptocurrencies, almost like, as a hobby, as something to and as I said earlier, something that gets me a better rate of return than certainly a UK bank account right now. But I guess with Bitcoin Cash, I did some research to understand what was happening. I did some preparation. I bought myself a hardware wallet, which cost me about $90. And on was it last Monday morning or last Tuesday morning, I found I had earned at least $250 from doing that.
Wow, that's like free money.
That's like free money. So I made myself. I think it went up to something like over $500 at one point in time. So I have, because I'm a little bit OCD, I have one whole Bitcoin because I like round numbers.
Nice.
And my whole Bitcoin was in a hardware wallet at the time of the fork, and maybe because I'd done a bit of research, I picked the right hardware wallet, and they gave me one whole Bitcoin Cash equivalent, as well as my one whole Bitcoin. I won't say Bitcoin Classic, but you know what I mean. So I have one Bitcoin and one Bitcoin Cash equivalent for free. Yeah, I got that Bitcoin Cash for free. So that's a nice thing to have. That allows me a bit of extra time and money to do some more research or buy another hardware wallet maybe. But at the moment, I'm looking after my Bitcoin Cash and seeing what happens with it, because I've got nothing to lose.
And plus, having two Bitcoins helps your OCD, because now you've got an even number of Bitcoins.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and that would have bothered me. And yeah, I don't have quite enough spare cash to go out and buy a whole new Bitcoin to go alongside it. So it's the next best thing.
So you're basically saying, because of your savvy Nest with block information, you managed to double your money just because of that text.
Not quite double money. I think at the moment Bitcoin Cash is running at about 10% of the value of Bitcoin. So it went up to 20%, it went up to about 20% of the value. And some people say, well, it could equal value over time. Some people say, oh, it'll be worthless in 6 months. But whichever way it goes, I've had fun. I've learned something. I've proven that having a hardware wallet is a really good thing to do. So go out and buy one. I have a Ledger. Other hardware wallets are available. So that was an interesting experiment and an experiment that's paid off for me at the moment.
Which is good, and especially with the Australian government seeking to use it as one of their currencies, officially recognised. I can only see it going forwards at a great pace.
Yeah, it's got the opportunity, and things like other cryptocurrencies. They're all a lot of them are in their infancy. Bitcoin is the granddaddy. Bitcoin's been around the longest. Bitcoin's got the most maturity, and it is at the moment looking like digital gold. Ethereum or Ether on the Ethereum blockchain, that's maybe looking like digital silver or digital vellum. It's what you can write important contracts on. It's like your digital barrister or digital solicitor. But it still has a value. Ethereum and Ether still has a value. The young pretenders, the challengers, the Bitcoin Cashes, the Ripples, the Dash, and there are many other coins. They're up there trying to fill a gap in the market when it arises. And I've got a little portfolio. It is my hobby at the moment. It keeps me out of mischief. But I'd like to think it's been a successful hobby.
That's cool. I don't know anything about Ripple, but Steve mentioned that the Fed is doing stuff with Ripple.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which Fed he's talking about, but...
So I think he means the federal bank. Ripple, I think, is one of the cryptocurrencies that is getting some interest from the financial sector. It's not quite as I guess it's in its infancy. It's not quite as de-restricted as Bitcoin. So maybe it's kind of for a bank or a financial industry, which are well known to be cautious about investing in stuff unless they pretty sure they get a damn good return on it. So I think Ripple is an early attempt at those guys putting the blockchain technology into something that's useful for financial institutions, be they government and state-led, or be they business-led and finance sector-led. So yeah, Ripple's an interesting one. I saw a lot of interesting reports on how Ripple's going to skyrocket and take off. So I bought a few. I bought probably about $200 worth a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, I've lost $100 worth at this point in time. But actually, I've made that up in other cryptocurrencies, and I'm not losing anything. Well, I am losing anything, but it's a useful experiment again, and it'd be nice to see where Ripple goes, because like other technologies, it's got potential. And once other people start seeing that potential, then its value will increase. And hey, maybe I'll make my money back. But if I don't, I won't cry too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what I think a lot of people are doing. I know one of my friends on Facebook, he is using all of his award miles and turning them into cash, and his sort of spare money, which just appears from us traveling around and doing what we do. And he's just investing that into internet currency, which will mean that hopefully that will go up in value more than using it for his air miles, etc. So those loyalty points could be turned into cash and used this way. I think a lot of people are watching this as well. I haven't heard of anybody throwing large amounts of money into these currencies to make money. I think they are rather volatile at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like gambling. You should only gamble as much as you can afford. There's a little bit more of a return. It's not as certain as a bank account, but hey, bank accounts are only giving us like 1% or 0.5% interest rates at the moment, because that's what the Bank of England set as an interest rate. But you are gambling somewhat with investment in cryptocurrencies at this point in time, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and if you can't afford to lose, then don't gamble.
Yeah, totally.
I quite agree. Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are winning though.
I'm having fun.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you work together. Is there anything that you're currently working on?
Well, we've been having conversations at the moment about where blockchain technology could be used within organizations. And I particularly like the idea of a workflow within an organization which can be managed through blockchain, because that ensures that each stage of the process is done correctly and nobody can falsify their work or what's been done, which is quite interesting. And Mark, perhaps you want to talk about what we're talking about this morning with the educational system.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Ian and I both have our day jobs. We're both in IT. We happen to be working in different organisations at the moment, but sometimes the planets align and we work together. But in our day jobs, and certainly in my day job, I'm looking at challenges and technology challenges and problems and issues, and what blockchain, I guess, gives me the opportunity now is to have an extra tool to try and meet some of those challenges. Now, the sectors that I work in generally have been government, so UK central government, and that is facing massive challenges at the moment through Brexit, which you may have heard of, our decision to leave the European Union, and there are issues associated with that have massive potential for things like blockchain to help fix. I'm not saying blockchain is going to be the answer to all people's problems, but it's a new tool that we should heavily investigate, heavily try and apply to some of these problems, because we have new problems, and it'd be useful to use new technology to meet those new problems. What blockchain really is useful for is kind of the proof of identity, as an example, and proof of a person. And recent experience of mine working with UK government Home Office, which is the equivalent of Homeland Security in the States, we'll have challenges with immigration. We'll have challenges with working out if people coming to the UK are the people they say they are. Would like to know how they arrived at the UK border. Are they approved to come in through the UK border? And a technology like blockchain has massive potential to assist with some of those challenges that I think a lot of people are scratching their heads about today. So am I working on that right now? No, because I've got a day job that keeps me quite busy. That's in a different industry. It's working in the travel industry, and that's got its own challenges. And again, when I come up with the challenge, blockchain is one of the tools I can at least explore and see if it has a potential use case. But yeah, I guess Ian and I are looking for and this is a conversation we had with Steve. Looking for that killer app, looking for that use case, which a number of people are looking at the moment. How to get the most benefit for them as individuals and companies, but also how to get the most benefit for the world at large, for consumers, for customers, for the public. And some of the really interesting things I've seen recently in some of the Ethereum meetups that we're quite good at, I think, in London. I think whilst it's taken us a little bit of time, I think there's actually a quickly evolving and a maturing culture of blockchain and Ethereum and Bitcoin savvy people in London. It's a hub. It's one of the world's finance centers, and hey, why shouldn't it be one of the world's cryptocurrency centers? So I think there's some really interesting work going on that I saw in a recent meetup. One was kind of trying to describe the blockchain equivalent of StubHub or Viagogo,
Yeah.
which is I guess reselling of tickets, spare tickets to events, to concerts, to sporting events, to you name it. You know what StubHub does and Viagogo does, but those traditional websites are fraught with problems. The people at Aventus, I think is the organisation, they're looking at how to use blockchain technology to fix some of those problems. Like, how do you know that the ticket that you've bought from StubHub or Viagogo is a legit one? How do you know that you're not going to turn up outside Yankee Stadium with a guy with a billy club who's just going to beat you up, take your cash, and run away? You want some certainty that you're going to get a ticket that actually is valid. It gets you a seat in the stadium, a seat at the game, and is that you're giving your money to someone who's reputable and is not going to run away and leave you with nothing, or leave you with broken fingers, even worse. So that's a real interesting application, and I guess I'm seeking inspiration from things like that to come up with my own ideas. I'm nothing if not an ideas man, and I'm hopeful and that I'll be able to get one of my ideas on the blockchain pretty soon. Ian, I know you've been looking at things like the Ferris Bueller problem.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And the Ferris Bueller problem, which is the hacking, let's say, of exam grades. A few things, if you want to look up those comments Mark made. Billy Club is like a truncheon or short stick. Just for our transatlantic cousins there.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Ferris Bueller very, very ably logged into his grades and changed them because he got a computer and his sister got a car. It's a very unfair.
It was attendance record. It was his attendance record.
Right.
Ferris Bueller, one of the classic films of all time, let alone the mid '80s. But I think if we're all a little bit more Ferris Bueller, the world would be a better place.
Totally.
Absolutely. Yes. So using blockchain in that scenario would be absolutely ideal, because one person could not change that, because it would not, for the attendance record, the attendance record would not be up to date, because the blockchain process would actually prove that something has been tampered with and that wasn't valid, which I quite like. I think the problem with that, and I think it's the problem that everybody's dealing with, is unique identifiers. We still can't uniquely identify people very well. And I think that's something which a lot of people are trying to deal with. I know there's software out there. You can almost buy a whole government software suite to run a country, but we've still got this problem with how do we uniquely identify people. And I know we've got the social security number in the States and national insurance number in England, but again, it's dealing with those errors and issues, which are usually legacy issues, which means the system falls over, which is a problem. But I think it was Sony who were talking about doing this for the educational market, and it does make a lot of sense. Are there bigger applications for this? And this is the interesting thing, that we need to speak to the accountants of organizations to say, this is what it can do for you. This is why you need to use it. And this is why you need to spend X, Y, Z dollars or pounds on implementing this solution. And that's really the problem. At the moment, the return on investment for an organization isn't there. So I think the niche area at the moment is for small businesses who are needing a process. Perhaps it's a small business that's growing. They could implement this. And that's really where we need to try and find a platform these days where we can easily rebrand or reskin that generic engine in the background and provide that to those up and coming businesses who are ready to say, hey, we need to put a process around this. Whatever we're doing is successful. How do we do this in this modern age? What is the current way of doing this that would make sense for our organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the thing, it sounds like you guys could add a lot of value to people's lives through this technology, but the big thing lately is trust, not just within the blockchain space, but how would you go about packaging this so that people understand right away, like, okay, this is something different. Like more so people who are not in the space completely, people like me who know just enough. How would you show that the technology in the background is solid, unbreakable?
Yeah, and I'm going to do a merciless link here, and I'm going to go from Ian's Sony example, investigating the Ferris Bueller problem, and use the Sony collaboration with the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the recent Spider-Man Homecoming film, which I saw the other day and I found to be excellent. Now, I'm a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Bear with me on this one. One of the films in the cinematic universe is the film Thor, followed by the sequel Thor: The Dark World, and the soon-to-come Thor: Ragnarok, which I'm very much looking forward to as well. Now, what is Mark talking about? Your listeners may be saying. Well, I think the problem you highlighted, Ethan, is that it's not yet in people's common understanding. It doesn't reach out to people and talk to them in a language that they understand. It's still quite theoretical in some areas. It's still quite kind of mathematical and cryptographic, which can be intimidating, I guess, if you're not a seasoned mathematical genius like Vitalik Buterin or Gavin Wood, who's one I guess our British star in the Ethereum panoply of gods. Then if you're not one of those guys who code in their sleep, who are seem to be in the matrix and can see what the ones and zeros say, and have taken red and blue pills, then it's not talking to you and me as the guy on the street, as the guy in the bar, saying, "Oh, I've heard this blockchain stuff. What can it do for me?" And I guess what I'm pretty good at is trying to translate between worlds, is trying to translate between guys who sleep, eat, breathe code, and guys in the bar who need a solution to the problem. That's, I guess, where both Ian and I probably excel, for want of a better word. That's what comes naturally to us. Dr. Gavin Wood, who I've mentioned a number of times, is a bit of a guru, a bit of a personal hero of mine. And I think if he went for tea with the Queen in Buckingham Palace, I think I would applaud both of those people, both the Queen and Gavin Wood, and I think that would be an excellent thing that he did. And what Gav Wood's been talking about recently is his new venture. He left the kind of the Ethereum collective. Used to be the CTO there, alongside Vitalik, alongside Stefan Tool and others. And they're all kind of not going their separate ways, but investigating other avenues. And Gav Wood is set up the company called Parity, and Parity is setting up a solution, which is theoretical at the moment, as most of the good ones are, that I think acts as the glue between blockchain and the guy on the street. We've all heard about Ethereum. We know it's great for smart contracts, and we can probably, if we squint a bit, see its application in kind of the legal field, in maybe some of the financial fields, and we can let experts code to their heart's delight in Ethereum and come up with these smart contracts. What we need to be more comfortable with is that there's scale behind those blockchains like Ethereum, that there is that we can develop on it. So it doesn't just have to be guys who who, as I said, read the ones and zeros. People who can adopt common tool sets, coding tool sets, can get into this easily. Like grade school kids are being taught to code, you would want it to be accessible as that. You'd want people, who the people of the future, our young, thriving people of the future, be able to understand this and get on with this pretty quickly. So you want it to be developable. You want governance, so you want to know that somebody's looking after this, that it's not quite a free-for-all. It's got somebody policing it, for want of a better word, but looking after it, curating it, and you one of the the main things that I think Gavin Wood talks about is the applicability. It's great in theory, but where is my use case? Show me how it's going to fix my problems. So I think what Gav Wood's talking about, he's come up with this concept, this solution called Polkadot, which is going to try and address some of those needs, some of the needs to take the great theoretical and technological marvel that is blockchain and turn it into a useful, repeatable thing that's understood by more people than it is today. So he's talked about Polkadot. Unfortunately for Gav, he's not had the time yet to come up with a killer presentation that communicates how Polkadot is the next best thing, and is not also kind of mysterious and a bit untouchable by the man on the street. That's where I come in, and I'll bring you back to my original random Marvel Cinematic Universe and Thor analogy. So I see Polkadot as Thor's home world of Asgard. That's where Odin lives. Odin lives in Asgard. Odin is the king and the all-father of Asgard. In the Thor movies and Thor comics, there are 9 realms, of which Asgard is one. Mittelheim, which I think is their word for Earth, is another of the 9 realms, and you have Jotunheim, where the frost giants live, and Vanheim, where some other blokes live, and the Asgardians take it upon themselves to help those other worlds function. If Earth gets into trouble, then Thor gets his hammer out, Mjolnir, and goes and helps that realm, that world of Earth. But the Asgardians are kind of like the police of the 9 realms, and they have the Bifrost Bridge, which is that colourful, shiny thing that leaves crop circles on the floor that Idris Elba looks after, so they have some technology to help them reach those 9 realms. But yeah, they are the guardians of those 9 realms. They take it upon themselves to act as gods and look after those things. I think that's, in a very weird analogy, is what Gav's trying to describe for Polkadot. Polkadot is the Asgard. It's trying to look after 9 realms, which you would call the various different blockchains. So it operates between, say, Ethereum as one blockchain and another blockchain. It can either have blockchains within Asgard, or it can be blockchains connected to Asgard. Bear with me. So in order to make Asgard and the 9 realms work, or Polkadot and the many different blockchains that it's joining up, you need Odin to be the leader, to be the king, to be the all-father, and that in Gav speak, in Polkadot speak, are nominators. They're the ones who are in control of everything, who can see everything, who look after everything. That's Odin. You also have validators, so people who are engaged by Odin, and I'll call these the Warriors 3. Warriors 3 and the Lady Sif, if you've seen the films, who are the ale drinking warriors who go out and are Thor's buddies, and they will go and fight the good fight behind Thor. So they're the validators. They're the ones that kind of do the day-to-day looking after of Asgard, or the Polkadot. I think what's the name? The relay chain, that's the one. Relay chain is Asgard. So relay chain is trying to join up blockchains to make them work together, to make them accessible to the man on the street. But to do that, it needs to put some controls in place. It's got the Warriors 3, or the validators, to police some of those controls. It's got the Bifrost Bridge, which Idris Elba is looking after, which connects to different worlds in a controlled way. So Idris Elba's standing there with his big sword and letting us in and out and operating the Bifrost Bridge. And that is how you connect Earth to Asgard, or Ethereum to the Polkadot relay chain. You've also got, if the nominator in Odin fails and the validators fail, well, who are you going to call? You're going to call the bloke with the big hammer. You're going to call Thor to come in, and he is called a fisherman in Polkadot terms, but he's kind of the real backup plan. You know, he's the one who can come in and sort out all the problems if the guys doing the day job fail and Odin's been kidnapped by Loki or something. So the fisherman role of Thor will come in, shoot some lightning probably, and make it all work, make it a governable place, make it a manageable place, make it a safe place for all the blockchains to operate. That probably sounded like a completely crazy ramble, but that's, I think, the kind of thing that people need to help understand blockchain and related technologies more. They need some analogies. They need better pictures. They need better explanations that make people who the man on the street get it and not have to be Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah, that really spoke to me. Thank you. I really enjoyed that in the Viking terms. I'm mostly Viking DNA, so I get it.
Excellent. So you know that's I think and you know, Gav gave this speech a couple of weeks, but a month or so back on what is Polkadot to us in London, and he was really struggling. He said, well, there's a picture I've got, and it's a really messy picture, and I really need to redo this picture, but it's the best I've got at the moment, and me looking at that picture, you know, and having just kind of watched a bunch of Marvel films and looking forward to Thor, made me think, you know, there's a lot of examples there. There's a way of explaining quite technical, theoretical stuff in a better way that us normal people can understand it.
I think that was quite interesting about the movies, and it's when things like blockchain and internet currency is starting to be used in movies, such as perhaps Fast and the Furious 12, they buy a car with Bitcoin or something. That's when I think the man on the street really starts going, ooh, what is this? It's interesting about how to explain it, and that's really where this came in, that Mark's analogy was very good, and it's something you really need a whiteboard and a pen to explain. But once somebody gets the concept, I think bridging the gap between where we are today within business and where you could be in the future is really the challenge of saying, well, this is how we'd implement this. And a lot of organizations have gone through a lot of change. It's a very uncertain world out there. And is anybody going to do it? It's interesting that IBM are very much pushing the blockchain idea, and we can see that they've got a lot of systems behind that. Which organizations are going to go with it? And I think those smaller organizations are going to, while the man on the street is very similar to Mark and myself, perhaps dabbling with a bit of money where they might have put that in the stock market or spread betting in the past, might sees it as more secure to actually learn about this currency and play with it as a hobby, as Mark indicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. Thanks, Ian. I mean, I'm pretty talked out, but it's a learning curve, I think, for all of us, which is a nice place to be. It's exciting times. You know, we're none of us here in this conversation, and maybe listeners, if this goes on the air, you know, we're not that far behind the cutting edge of this. You know, if wind back 20 years, if I was in this position when the internet was starting out, you know, I would be really excited because you know, I would have a chance of learning as it grew, and I think that's the same position we find ourselves in with blockchain technology. It's pretty new. If you're interested in it, well, find your niche. or find your niche if that's your particular way of speaking, because it's not that difficult for you, me, and everybody else actually to understand it and get something out of it for ourselves and help other people get stuff out of it too.
Beautiful. Very well said. Yeah, this is really cool. I really appreciate your enthusiasm. It's getting me pumped up for the blockchain again, and really enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Thank you.
The Blockchain Show is a team effort by Steve Anderson, Heather Sullivan, Ethan Kinderconnect, and Sarah Hempling. To learn more, visit theblockchainshow.com. Are you looking for an easy way to buy Bitcoin or Ether on a safe, secure platform? Coinbase is the easiest place to buy and sell digital currencies. Sign up today as a friend of the Blockchain Show, and if you buy or sell $100 of Bitcoin or more, you'll earn $10 of free Bitcoin for yourself and $10 of Bitcoin to support this show. Join now using the link in this episode's show notes at theblockchainshow.com.